Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sunny Side Up podcast. I'm your host, Sunny Chavla, and today I've got a special guest with me. We're not really talking much about cars. Instead, a little bit more of a role model figure, Dylan Ogline. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
Of course, thanks for coming on here. Thanks for actually getting this whole podcast set up because it's something new to me. I normally just stay in my room, and I've just got my door closed with my parents bickering in the background, so I got to edit that out. But
always wearing your boxers.
Yeah,
in those
exactly.
Episodes, right?
Exactly.
Okay, giving the listeners a little bit of backdrop
Yeah,
there.
it's all good.
He's clothed right now.
Yeah. And for you watching on YouTube, this is video filmed as well. So this is my first podcast that I am video filming, and hopefully not the last as well. So tell me a little bit about yourself, Dylan. I know a little bit about you, but the people that might be more inclined to my audience, they might not know much about you. So go ahead.
Sure. So as we were talking about before before we were recording, I am 32, so I'm slightly older than your other guests on the show.
Yeah.
So I think first and foremost, I am the proud captain and founder, one of the founding members of the District 5 Hockey Club. Uh-huh. We're a semi-pro hockey club in the Orlando area. Me and my boy Sonny, we're on the fourth line reserves. That's what we are. Professionally, I am known for my digital marketing agency, Ogline Digital. We focus on direct response digital marketing solutions. I'm a Christian world traveler when I'm allowed, given COVID times, adventure seeker, and starting to get into telling dad jokes. So I'm getting to that age where I'm trying to dabble in the dad joke industry.
So free practice is almost over now, isn't it?
Yes. So we got a few more years, hopefully.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you did mention that we do play on the same hockey team, but how did you get into hockey?
So, man, I don't remember. No. One Christmas, I think my parents got me or somebody got me like roller skates, and I don't remember if they got me like a hockey stick with that or whatnot, but I was maybe 10 or something along those lines. Mm-hmm. And the house I grew up in, most of my childhood was spent in, had like a connecting driveway with the other house. So it had a really big driveway, so perfect for roller hockey. Uh-huh. And I'd spent many a summer nights out until very late at night, just hitting the ball up against the garage door. So that's how I got into it. And then I don't remember. Getting old enough to struggling here. I started playing just house hockey, like the house leagues. Mm-hmm. At the local rink that was like 45 minutes away, Planet Ice in Johnstown, Pennsylvania.
Wow.
Still can remember the way that place smells. Brings back memories. So I started playing there maybe a summer or two, and then actually it was maybe like 2 or 3 seasons, and then I started playing high school hockey.
Gotcha.
So that's how I got into it. What about you, man?
So yeah, it's funny that you asked because I was just thinking about it too. So I want to say I was born in Michigan, and we had a basement in our house, and that's perfect case scenario for a hockey kid to be raised up in. My dad moved here, I want to say in like 82 or 83 from like India, and the first sport that he almost picked up was hockey. He started watching the Red Wings, and from there, especially through their slumps as well as through them holding up the Stanley Cups, he really got intrigued with the sport, ended up learning a little bit of it, and he ended up playing goalie in high school.
Really?
In high school and college, excuse me.
Wow. So where at? Not to.
It was, I have no idea. I know he played in high school, and it was just like floor hockey. It wasn't anything like ice. Okay. But I want to say even the University of Michigan, he was also like for part of that like what's the word? Intramural sports.
Wow, that's awesome, man.
So you'll have to fact check me on that, but I know that's how he started it. And from there, I get born, and that's the first sport he teaches me. I used to play basketball, football, all that stuff, but hockey's really what appealed to me. We used to have these pillars in the basement. I would use that to like kind of stick handle around. Being 3 or 4, I didn't really know what I was doing, but it kind of appealed to me. And we moved down here. That's when my parents got me my first pair of roller skates. My dad got a couple goals off of Craigslist, a couple sticks, and we still have a lot of those sticks even now. And from there, we started with a diagonal, like, so that we had a street, like this normal neighborhood street, and we'd taken the empty house basically diagonal from us, and we'd place the goals diagonally. And we'd play like that. I had actually started with just me and him, and a couple of the other kids that were younger at the time, they were like, yo, we kind of want to play. My dad ended up basically starting this like neighborhood cult of hockey.
That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And it was actually a kicker to that though. So one day, because we used to play with the goals in the middle of the streets, and it would take 5 seconds for us to skate back in, take the goal, move it to the side, let the cars pass. So this lady, she had, I guess, a problem with waiting 5 seconds. Old, 76-year-old Karen, exactly. And she lived about 14 houses down from us. So she saw us play, but she wasn't happy with how we played. So she just yelled at my dad and was like, you shouldn't be having these goals in the middle of the road. You need to find a different way to do it or find a different place to do it. She actually drove her car into our goal, went home, called the cops, and said that we threw the goal at her while she was complaining.
Wow.
So the cop came. He was really sympathetic about it. He was like, I know none of you guys would be doing something like that, but unfortunately with our neighborhood HOA stepping in, they were like, no, sir, we can't have you be playing on the basketball courts, on the tennis courts, which was unfortunate. After that, everything got disbanded. A lot of the kids just started doing their own thing, and you know how high school and like middle school kids are now. My dad had a good thing going, but basically just kind of taking off from that tangent there, I started to build up on roller hockey a little bit more. When I was not studying, I was out on the driveway, even in the pouring rain. I remember playing during Irma before it like hit us hard. I was in a thunderstorm just playing hockey, shooting my hockey balls. And then I moved up here to go to UCF, and lo and behold, I started ice with Aiden when I met him.
Yeah.
So that's a whole nother story of how I met Aiden and how we ended up playing hockey together. But it was everything just kind of fell in place. So now
Gotcha.
I'm basically 1 point above you on the hockey standings. So,
for the record, I'm a defenseman. I'm a defenseman, and you're a forward.
Yeah,
so
for the record, I'm still 12 years younger than you and have so much less experience. Last time I heard, I think I was listening to a little bit of a podcast that you were on, and I think I read or heard that you wanted to like get a college scholarship for hockey.
So yeah, I grew up in a pretty poor town, and pretty much like it's beat into you. It's much different than in the city. Like here, just like, of course you're going to college, right? Like where I'm from, it was it was beat into you. Like if you ever want to become anything more than a farmer, which nothing wrong with being a farmer, but like if you ever want to do anything with your life, you have to go to college. And basically, which looking back, like this isn't necessarily the truth, but it's just beat into you so much that if your parents can't pay for it, you got to get a scholarship, or like, good luck farming. Like that's pretty much all you can do. So I picked up hockey, and I was terrible, but I was like, like if I really push this and like this is my ticket out, I knew I wasn't going to be going pro by all means. I knew I wasn't going to be going to Michigan and getting some scholarship at some like clunky, half off scholarship from some junky school. Like maybe that was something I could obtain. And obviously I ended up dropping out of high school. So kind of like didn't do that, but yeah, that was kind of that was for a while. That was probably 2 or 3 years from I was 12 to 14, 11 to 14. That was like my thought process was this is my ticket out somehow.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I know, especially like being brought up in a South Asian community as well, and with South Asian parents, it's also beat into you, regardless of what the setting is like, that you have to go to college, you have to be that typical joke, doctor, lawyer, engineer. So that was also beat into.
And what
me.
are you in college for?
Mechanical engineering. Yeah, exactly.
You fit the mold.
Exactly. I was just thinking, having second thoughts about maybe drop into business. Not actually, but engineering school has been a toughie so far.
I can imagine.
Yeah, exactly. Just every morning being up till 4, studying, all that stuff. It's just not a fun time. But I'm glad I get time to play hockey, be able to do stuff like this, even podcasts and stuff, because that's what gets my mind away from it, to be honest.
That's awesome.
But so you mentioned you did drop out. I think you dropped out from high school, was it? Or
Yep, 10th grade.
So would you ever want to go to college just for, shits and giggles? Or
well, right now I actually do attend Valencia.
Oh, so that's right.
Yeah. I think I don't know if it was you or Aiden that I talked to about this, but so I'm always. I mean, you've been to my house. Books, tons of books in my office. Mm-hmm. I'm always reading, always trying to learn. I try to take like a half hour to 45 minutes every day, put towards some kind of education. It can be books, it can be training courses and things like that. So one thing that I started to get into probably like a year prior to COVID was like I was going to in-person masterminds, like big groups for businesses and stuff. Mm-hmm. When I say big, I mean like just ridiculously expensive groups, but they were just transformative stuff. And COVID happened, so like you're not doing the in-person stuff. I was still doing like online courses and whatnot, just stuff you can sign up for. And it was always like in the back of my mind, I was like, I wonder what this like whole college thing is like. Mm-hmm. So I think I just finished my first class. I don't know if we're done. The online going into it is really shocked me just how bad the online education with college is.
Yeah.
Like I was blown away. There's been multiple times where I go to take like the test or whatever, and I finish and they're like, "Well, you got 3 answers wrong," and I'm like, "Whoa, what?" So I start, I look back and the test is wrong. So then I have to message into the professor, and I don't even know how I'm messaging them because the interface is so bad.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yo, your test is wrong," and they're like, "Oh yeah, let me correct that or whatever." Like
wow.
I'm highly competitive. I'm sure as you know, so it really bothers me if I miss one question. But yeah, that whole industry is definitely ripe for innovation. It is just so shockingly bad how unorganized and the professor's great. I mean, she's awesome, but I don't know I presume most of your classes are probably in person. But
yeah, right now they are.
Yeah, online it's just like, wow, like how did you guys make this so bad?
Ironically enough, I'm actually taking 2 classes next semester online. I prefer the online environment just for the sake that I can do everything at my own time.
Yes, that is nice.
Especially with the semester that's kicked my ass. I feel like I owe myself a little bit of more of like a slower semester. So everything is basically due for our online classes at the end of like the last day of the semester. Mm-hmm. So May 15th or whatever, everything is due. So I can just wait until May 10th, do everything within those 5 days if I wanted to.
Yeah.
But it's just like even transitioning from COVID, when I had basically, was it a semester and a half almost of in-person classes and in-person college experience, that transition was rough. And then everything started smoothing out and the transition back was even worse. So that's, I think, why I'm struggling now. And it's mostly just kind of like a lack of motivation because in online school, for me at least, it was just do the busy work, take the test, use Chegg if you need to, call it a day. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's something that was like very easy, but then now actually going back and being able to do the work, that's where it's a little bit tougher. Yeah. So just with that in hand, I can understand like a lot of the professors too, they reuse material. So the test that you might be taking might be outdated, or like even some of the professors that I'm taking right now, they have like a copyright at the bottom of their test that says like copyright 2016 professor's name. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, this is all like, although it's the same curriculum, especially with like engineering, there's nothing that changes much. It's still crazy how they don't change any of their teaching style. And to me, like for someone, if you were to tell a high school kid, for example, who's either looking to drop out and start a business or something, or looking at someone who's trying to go to college, that's a big, disadvantage to college is that it's one big formality. It's really tough. And you like experiencing both ends, basically. I want to hear what you think about like if you were to tell a kid which way you should go.
About going to college or not?
Yeah.
It depends on what you want to do with your life.
Let's say they wanted to go to business school, because I have a lot of friends who've been on the fence of dropping out and using that money that they pay for college. And it's a very like subjective question. There's a lot of factors that go into it, but especially you owning your own business, how would you direct someone like that?
So if you are going to be starting your own business, I probably would drop out. Yeah. But if you're going to go work into the workforce, I mean, now you have to have that degree, right?
Yeah.
You got to have it. I think there's no substitute for experience. I look at myself, and this is actually why I dropped out of high school, was it actually comes back to hockey.
Oh,
so
really?
This is kind of a good story. So I remember I was watching. So like the only ticket out was this whole, had to get a scholarship, right? And I remember watching, I started to like not volunteer, but I wasn't on the varsity team, but I would go with the varsity team and like, bring their water bottles out.
So you were their bitch.
Yeah, I was their bitch. And like, two or three of the freshmen or whatever would volunteer to do that. And, it was, mentorship or whatever. And I remember being at this one game for, I think it was Mars High School. It's the town is called Mars in Pennsylvania. And I remember watching this varsity team, and I'm like, holy shit. Like I remember where I was standing. I remember watching them. I don't remember though if it was Mars, but I remember just watching them, and they were just so much better than me. And I was like, dude, like, come on. Like, you don't stand a chance. And looking back as an athlete now, I'm like, I definitely stood a chance. I could have gotten a lot better. I could have worked out. I could have gotten better. But at the same time, I was starting to pick up business books. I had just finished reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is like my business Bible. Totally changed my life. At the time, I was also dating a girl who her dad was like one of the most prominent business people in the community. So I had like all this influence in the business world. And I was thinking like, I can go to college and get a business degree and then go into the business world or whatever. And watching this hockey game and like all this stuff is going on in my life. And I kind of had this realization of the commonality between all these really good players versus me is that they started way sooner. Like there's a guy, Colin Eddy, who I went to high school with. He eventually, I don't think he was drafted into the NHL, but he was signed by the Flyers.
Wow.
He never played, I don't think, but he was just a ridiculously good player. I think he played for the Phantoms in the AHL.
Gotcha.
And then he went over to England or something, and then he retired there. But either way, he started playing when he was like 4. I started playing when I was like 11, 12.
Yeah.
At that age, that is a world of difference. So, and I had always like been thinking about that. So I'm watching this team play. I'm reading these business books. Like I knew time mattered. And I was like, what if I were to switch and get into that whole business thing now? Somehow. I didn't know what that meant. Didn't know where it would go or anything. But it was like, if I get into it now, when all these guys are, graduating college, I'll be like 10 years ahead of them. So I'm 32 now. I've owned my own business since I was 14. So I have like, I don't even know the math, 18 years of experience, and I'm 32. Most people who are graduating college with an MBA, they might have 7 years of experience at this point. So, I don't even know where I was going with that, but for me, that's why I made the decision to drop out of high school, was to get that early start. So I think going back to your question of, if you're going to be starting your own business or something like that, I definitely think, that's, you're going to have a lot of people who tell you don't do it. Just make the jump and go and get actual real life experience. You're going to make a shit ton of mistakes. You're going to fall on your face many, many times. You're going to question yourself over and over and over and over again. But there's no substitute for real. Wow. Real world experience.
There it is.
There's no substitute for that.
Yeah, I've actually experienced a little bit of that. I don't have like any set business, but with my photography brand, Chavla Media, I've had to deal with a lot of clientele, and I've had to kind of budge with them, and not having much exposure kind of sucks, but it is a startup business to begin with. I told myself earlier this week, I said, if somehow if my photography took off and I was making like a proper, income or something like that, by engineering school, because photography, I guess, is just something that I actually enjoy compared to, getting destroyed by classes. But going back to the point here, it's with all these businesses, there's so many like things that can deter someone from doing it. Like just for me, for example, I started, I think the first 2 weeks that I started, I wasn't getting any clientele. I was doing shoots for free just to get some portfolio in. And it really brought me down, because I was saying, this work that I do, I feel like it's worth some money. It's not, for free. And, something, either whether it's a like photography business where you kind of need some sort of basis, or whether it's something like, I think I heard you start with, selling cell phones on eBay.
When I was 14.
Yep, when you're 14. So the two different realms, but at the end of the day, they have like the same sort of message, the same kind of story behind it, really, and the same outcome as well. So
I would mention one thing. So you say, which I don't know if necessarily photography is the business you want to get into, right? So and I'm going to compare this kind of like the online courses industry versus college. I think something that has been incredibly powerful for me is I am in mastermind groups, I am in education groups, training programs with other agency owners who are way ahead of me. And I can use that as a reference point. So if you are in college for business, let's just say, but your passion's photography, and you're like, why the hell am I going to business school when I can just go do my photography thing, right? I'd probably recommend drop out, which is a big life decision, disclaimer, think that through. Don't just jump, you idiot. But I would find, in your case, you were talking about like getting discouraged and whatnot. I would find a training program or a group, and you have to pay for the good stuff. Pay $1,000, pay $2,000 to be in one of these groups, training programs that teach you how to start a successful photography business. Let's just say that's what you wanted to do, right? The most powerful element is not like the cookie cutter approaches and like the tactics for pricing or how to do an invoice or shit like that, right? The most powerful element by far is that then you have a reference point. So if you want to make $100,000 a year as a photographer, and you're doing free shoots to build your portfolio, you're going to very quickly get discouraged. But if you're in a group with 50 other people who are all making $100,000 a year in their photography business, and they're like, yeah, you just got to go through that. You're just gonna be like, oh, this is just part of the process, right?
Yep.
So I think if you are thinking about dropping out or whatever, even if you're 50 and you're listening to this and you want to start your own business, I think one of the most powerful things you can do is find a group, find a training program, something like that, where you are going to be hanging out and associated with people who are ahead of where you want to be. I think that has been mission critical for me, absolutely transformative, and I highly recommend that to everybody.
Yep. And basically, given, like if I could go back, I would do this. Is there anything that you would have done differently, whether it was start hockey at a younger age or start your phone selling business at a younger age or anything like that?
I try not to think in terms of that. I try not to look. There's no such thing as mistakes. There's only lessons.
Wow. I'm framing that.
So I really try. I always try to watch my mindset. That has been a big shift for me over the past 5 years. Is like I am constantly watching what's going on up there, right? Mm-hmm. Like consciously thinking about what am I thinking about? And I see a lot of people, especially as I get older, people who look back with regrets or think, oh man, I should have done this different, or I should have bought Tesla and was 50 cents, mm-hmm. or I should have bought some Bitcoin or shit like that, right? That is extremely destructive thought process. Yeah. So I know this is not necessarily answering your question,
No,
but
that's
I try not to really even think back in terms of what would I do differently, because I definitely believe that the things at the time that you thought like, how the hell am I in this mess? Or I mean, dude, I once at one point I had like $1 million in debt. I mean, I've gone through shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I were to look back and be like, oh, like, oh man, I wish I wouldn't have made that mistake and that mistake, which would have put me in that situation. I don't know. Am I a better person because I went through that stuff? Probably. And I would rather go through that mindset and think I'm a better person, or I learned or whatever because of those mistakes, than think I wish I would have done it differently. Yeah. So that was my roundabout answer to your question.
No, that's really powerful, because, for me, like, I've had to go through, I think 18, 19, got my first credit card, and I was like, ooh, credit limit $2,100. That means I can spend $2,100. Was I wrong about that?
Yeah.
So I ended up, like, last year, I made that decision on buying the camera that I've got. $1,700 camera, and not the smartest of decisions, but it paid off. And if I were to think to myself, like, shit, I would have done something differently, I would have bought a cheaper camera, something like that, God knows where I would have been today with my business, with even something as big as this podcast, because I know, especially with like media creation and everything, that's what kind of influenced me to get on here. So if you didn't do anything differently, then like you basically how you are right now, then you wouldn't be able to take these vacations, these trips that I'd see you on. Like, you take so many. I text you and apologize, saying that you're at the North Pole or some shit like that. So do you do these for work, or is it just for like fun? What are the main aims for your vacations? Because I know, like, with my family, for example, they just try to get some bonding time out of it. So they're like, let's shut the practice down for 2 weeks. Let's just go have fun, go see some, like, I don't know, the Eiffel Tower or something like that. Is there a certain aim to your vacations? Is it for like Instagram clout, for, what is it?
So first, I don't think of them as in terms of vacations. I think that's, have you ever read the book Vagabonding by Ralph? You know what it is?
I do not.
Okay. Vagabonding by Ralph. If you just type in Vagabonding, you'll find it. Short read. Fantastic. Talks about, like, basically just going through the world, always exploring, right? That really inspired me to just travel. So I just love to travel, to just explore the world. I think it's out there to be explored. Like, that's what it's there for. The 4-Hour Work Week was also a huge, huge impact on my life. Like, have you read that?
No.
Sonny.
Yeah,
wow.
I'm not a big reader.
You got to read
Yeah.
Rich Dad Poor Dad, The 4-Hour Work Week, and Vagabonding. Got to read those books.
Got it.
But anyways, it basically just talks about instead of working your life away for these vacations, for 2 weeks a year, or retiring at the age of 65 or whatever, so you can see the world. Why not just take those breaks throughout your life? And believe it or not, it might make you actually a little bit better at what you do. So that really inspired me to travel. And so why do I do it? One, I like to travel. I like to get out into the world, experience culture. There's nothing more fascinating to me than that. It gets you away from the day to day and allows you to think. The biggest shifts that I have made with my business, my professional, even personal life stuff, the biggest shifts in my life have been a result of thoughts I've had on a trip. So, if I'm climbing a mountain or something, I got 7 hours, baby, where I'm disconnected from the world, and I can have those deep thoughts. I can read uninterrupted, things like that. And also just getting out of your comfort zone. It's all just about making me a better person.
I see.
So that would be my reason for doing it.
And with vacations, or not, like you said, not to call them that, but just like your bonding time with yourself. We'll leave it at that.
Yes.
It starts to bring a little bit more motivation. I know for me, like for my birthday, I went out to Satellite Beach and actually took some photography of my surfer friends, and that completely inspired me to just start a whole new realm of photography. But just going back to this, there's a lot of motivation that comes along with whether you're a business owner, whether, to really get you through the daily rut of life. For me, like owning and being around cars were my motivation to move forward in life and actually like wake up and get out of bed every day, even now. So what were your motivations growing up apart from like, or what was it really just like, you had that whole force that you had to be something from your hometown, or was it something bigger than that?
So like with my, like say 18 and older, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Heat.
Heat.
No,
Gotcha.
no joke. Fucking heat. So I grew up in Pennsylvania, rural Pennsylvania, and an older house, and with just a shitty ass heating system, no insulation, just a cold house, and
Wow.
that just really, like, it's so stupid, man. But just growing up, like, I just froze my ass off, and when I didn't want to be poor. I wanted to be able to turn the heat on whenever I wanted to, and not, I wanted to be able to eat whenever I wanted to. I didn't want a Rolex. I didn't want to have some Ferrari. I just wanted to be comfortable and not, questioning where the next meal's coming from and stuff like that. That has always driven me to get out of bed every morning. Now I've kind of reached the point where, I can turn the heat on when I want. I can eat what I want when I want. Now it's more along the lines of thinking about bigger picture stuff. I still haven't clearly defined that. But the education, I also own an education company. I think that's probably going to be a big focus for the next 5 to 10 years, maybe. Public service, I sometimes want to get into. But to answer your question, when I started, it was just fucking heat. And now it's kind of like thinking about the bigger picture stuff.
Wow. And being a role model of mine, you basically, like, to me, you've made it. You have a beautiful house.
Well, thank you, man.
Yeah, of course. You're in a great financial position in my eyes. You get to play hockey at your discretion, et cetera. So what gets you, you already said to me, like, what gets you out of bed every day, but I feel that I would be lazy as hell when I reach my goals. Like if I, like we were talking about on the way here, if I were to achieve that goal of buying myself that BMW, I would start, not having to grind my day out, wake up at 7 a.m., go to the gym, stuff like that. I would feel like, all right, I deserve some lazy time. How do you get yourself motivated? Is it just those like extra 5 to 10 years of a vision that you have, or is it something bigger than that might motivate you, although you've, like I said, in my eyes, made it?
So I would probably, man, this is a big one. This is like getting into some really deep stuff here.
I think the biggest reason I wrote down this question to ask you is because just kind of like from a personal standpoint, I've always lacked motivation whenever, I'm in a long chase for something. So taking it from you who've, I've seen you go I haven't seen you go from the ground up, but I've heard that you've come from the ground and worked your own way. It's a very inspiring story. And that's what I guess I could say like motivates me.
So I would say two things. One is obligation. I feel I always look at everything going in my life with gratitude. I'm very thankful for the mistakes I've made, for how far I've come, my health, everything. I'm always grateful for everything. I almost feel this obligation to, like, look how fucking lucky you are, dude. And I think so many people need to, like, look in the mirror. Like, people get down and they're, like, depressed about life and stuff like that. Depression's real by all means. But I feel there's just, like, this really deep sense of obligation of, like, look how fucking lucky you are, dude. Like, get your ass out of bed and go try to move the world just a little bit forward today. Like, that's all you're ever going to do. But just try to leave the world a little bit better today than what you found it. And I think, like, that's kind of almost the purpose of life, in my opinion, is to just move the needle a little bit forward and leave it a little bit better than what you found it. So yeah, obligation and just great. It's almost my way of saying thank you to God, to the universe, whatever, for everything I've been given. The second is standards. I think that's a really big shift that happened for me. You are not the best version of yourself that you imagine. You are rather the lowest version of yourself that you will accept. Mm-hmm. The truth is that you will do absolutely nothing to achieve your dreams, but you will fight to the death to not reach your standards. So if you have dreams or goals or whatever, you just simply must make them your undeniable, unrefutable standard. And I constantly am beating those standards into myself. Like, is this your standard? Like, is this, if I get a little lazy or I do something lazy or whatever, I'm like, is this really what you want to do? Is this your standard? Like, aren't you better than this? So I'm constantly doing that.
It makes sense why if you mess up on a play, you come out of the bench, you end up scoring a goal. So now I see what goes through your head.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
No, that's an insane mentality in a good way, of course, because I know for someone like me, I've been given it all from my parents. I'm blessed enough to have a big house and not have to deal with roommates as bad as it is with the lack of college experience. I'm blessed enough to have them be able to cover me financially, cover me with food anytime I wanted as well. And those are the things that I don't count in everyday life. I wake up and I say, damn, I don't have this in my life. I need to work for it. Instead, I should be a little bit more thankful. And especially with someone who's had a positive mentality, having that drive to leave the world a better place than you've seen it as, that's a huge moving point for I would say me, as well as any other college kid, older folk, anybody really that is kind of lacking motivation. So it's a big idea there.
Yeah, just constantly remind yourself. I think it was what's his name, Gary. Do you watch Gary Vee at all?
No.
I watch him very, very little, but I saw one of his videos in the last year or something, and he goes on talking something similar to this, and he's like, do you realize if you're listening to this, you're a human, in 2020, 2021, you have it so fucking easy. How are you not motivated to get up and go? I mean, you're not going to change the world maybe, but how are you not motivated to how are you not excited about fucking life? Get up and go do some shit with your life. And if you're in the United States, you could be in the poorest state, Mississippi, and you are still wealthier than 95% of humans. Mm-hmm. What the fuck are you complaining for? Get up, go make a difference, go do something with your life. And you just have to have that energy, man. And at the end of the day, I just fucking love to live. I fucking love life. I love living. And that just gets me up every morning. And I'm like, boom, baby, let's go live today, because you might be your last one. So make it fucking count and do some shit and just move it a little bit forward, baby. 1% better today, and just fucking live and be happy.
Looks like living makes you erect, huh?
Did we record that part talking about that?
I'm not sure we did, but
we can leave a little air of mystery for,
exactly.
For the guests. They're going to be wondering, what are they talking about, being erect?
I know you mentioned that you didn't mind talking about your knowledge or lack thereof of cars, and putting it really in a basic bare bones conversation. Did you ever have any dream cars growing up? I know you said that you just wanted heat, you didn't want a Ferrari, you didn't want a Rolex, but were there any cars or anything that you wanted to say I wish I had this, or do you have a certain car that you want to own in your lifetime?
I'm probably going to disappoint your listener, your car enthusiast listeners. For a time period, I wanted an R8. Probably when Iron Man came.
Yeah, I was about to say Robert Downey.
Yeah, seeing Iron Man probably inspired me to get an R8 for a while. Yeah, I mean, growing up, I don't think there was anything in particular that that I really wanted, probably, but you know what? No, I wanted. It's funny. I remember the girlfriend that I mentioned in high school. Her stepdad got a BMW 3 Series, and at the time I was like, a BMW. Like, so you gotta remember where I'm from. A BMW, like, wow. And I was just like, dude, if I get I will know I have made it if I could get that car. So I wanted that for a while, and then I remember a different girlfriend, current girlfriend, we went to Virginia Beach, I think it was, and we were walking on the boardwalk, and Nissan had like a promotional setup or something, and they had the new Nissan Maxima. And I was like, man, if I ever get that car, I will know I have made it. And like a year and a half later, I was driving that car, and I didn't feel like I had made it. But I love that Maxima. It was a really good car. So yeah. No, I mean, there was a few cars that but it was never anything, audacious. Now it's weird, man. Like, outside of like a Bugatti or something, I mean, there's pretty much not a car that I couldn't just go buy. I don't really want it. I don't really have any desire in that. I could go into a really deep conversation about this. I almost feel like kind of embarrassed about the car that I drive. Like, it's too good. I don't like to be flashy at all. I wear mostly black or dark colors.
That's why you chose orange jerseys.
That was not my choice, actually. That was the jersey manufacturer. That was their standard
Fair game.
District 5 jersey. But no, I don't like to be flashy or anything like that. So, like when I got the car I have now, my brother's in the car industry, which is weird. My father used to own a used car dealership. So my brother's really big into cars. Me, I'm like, I don't know how to change my oil. So yeah, when I got this car, I was just like, I texted my brother and I was like, I don't need a truck anymore. A sedan will work. I want good, high quality stuff. Don't want fancy. Safety matters. What do you recommend? And bought an A5.
A5 Sportback.
Yes.
And do you see yourself replacing that car anytime soon? Although you said, you almost feel like embarrassed in a good way driving it.
So see, I feel like I'm embarrassed that it's too flashy. Like, I specifically didn't want the S5. I was like, no. So yeah, I almost feel like it's too flashy, but it's really high quality. It's really good. Runs great and everything. I think my next car will probably be, I toss back and forth between wanting to go fully electric. I do like that the new Grand Cherokee, they have the plug-in electric hybrid, PHEV. Yeah. Yes. I like that. And I think, I think the next car will probably be a plug-in hybrid.
Awesome.
I don't think I'm ready to go fully electric yet.
Yeah, I don't blame you either. I was just having a conversation with my mom's family friend up in India, and in India the car scenario is very different than what it is here in the US. And their big rave is Tesla. They're like, we've never seen something like this before, and especially with you going into the car industry, you have to start working on electric cars. So I started doing a little bit of studying up on Tesla, and for me, like, if you take a look at, for example, the gas crisis or the oil crisis way back before my time, almost right before your time, unless, I don't know how, I guess maybe 32, you'd probably hit the near end of that. But there was a huge shift from those big, throaty, like, fast muscle cars, and then they all had to kind of neuter them down. And the same thing I feel like is going to go on here with electric cars. It's, especially you being in a position to afford one, it's kind of grazed your mind that, okay, this could be an option. But for me, like someone who's a very big enthusiast of gas-powered cars, I feel like it's going to take another 20, 30 years.
Ooh, we're going to actually get into cars here.
Oh, yeah.
I greatly disagree with that one.
Really?
Yes.
How so?
I definitely think I'm very liberal, as you've probably picked up.
Barely.
Really?
I'm kidding.
I mean, the Bernie sticker on my gun safe.
You calling that garage the Moderna garage over the Madeira?
I actually think that is the name.
It's Madeira, Modera.
You know what? Yeah, I don't know.
Go to college, kids.
It's a big boy word for me. Yes, dropouts can't pronounce that stuff. So yeah, climate change is a serious issue, and I do like, yeah, man. I think we have to move to electric. I think we have to move to electric as fast as possible. We could get into the controversy of how electricity is generated and stuff like that. But in the context of cars, I have no doubt that by 2030, the vast majority of vehicle production will be electric. Even if gas is, right now gas is up, from my understanding, because of OPEC just being assholes and trying to recoup their money from the drop when oil went below zero. I mean, you remember that, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to recoup their money, and they got high rises to pay for in Dubai. Yeah, and which is respectable. It's a business. Hey, we believe in the free market here, and that's how gas prices are determined. But either way, if gas drops down to $1, I think that might slow it. Certainly, I think people are going to be like, "Why the hell would I go with this electric thing when it cost me $10 to fill up my gas guzzling F-350 and stuff like that?" But I just think overall, I think we're definitely going to be moving more towards the electric, and I think it's undeniably it's better for the planet. So.
And I 100% agree. I'm not saying that, for example, that like we need to have gas powered cars in our lives, because let's be honest, the world keeps changing. Where we started in 1920 or 1930 with basically a wheelbarrow with bigger wheels, it's come a very long way. And for me though, it's the fact that with you take like the example that I gave you earlier, you have electric cars. It's gonna take a while for it to transition. I know even the car that you're driving, there's already an electric variant for it, and Audi's pledged by 2024 or 5 that they're going fully electric. And even in California, they are like basically mandating that gas powered cars will not be allowed for sale, and eventually probably just in general. Now you'll probably have some people that are gonna stash them away for 30 years, and next thing you know, 3 generations down, you got a kid ripping down in a 2020 or A5 or S5, and you're going to say, where the fuck did that come from? But at the same time, I think it's just going to be like, it's definitely going to be a huge transition over it. It's very important. It's even a renewable source, technically, if you want to call it that electric vehicles, you just plug it in and that's it. And my dad was actually thinking about getting a Tesla Model X, and I told him, fuck no. He was like, why? They said, well, first of all, we don't have solar panels on our house just for electricity there. It's only for the pool. So I said, you're going to rack up, electricity bills, and you already bitch at me for keeping my computer plugged in every day. I don't want to hear you bitch about that. And on top of that, it's just like, I've seen the credibility of Teslas and other electric vehicles, fully electric ones. The quality it's great.
A big issue. Oh, but no, from my understanding.
For some of them, they are, like, for example, Volvo. But for Teslas, there's a lack of quality.
Yeah, quality
body
control. Panels.
Yeah, there's
they're really cool.
They are. The Falcon doors are crazy.
Yeah. I mean, even the Model 3, dude, it's a cool little car.
I've one of my best friends has one. I did a photo shoot for it. It's a great car.
The album covers.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, it's something that will take time to grow into. When we first got computers, it was something that's probably the size of this room.
That
was one computer.
Much bigger. Yeah.
Exactly. Can't say the same about many things, but but just in general with cars, there's a huge it's like an exponential increase or decrease. Not getting into too much math here, but you start out at one point, and if you decide, okay, I want to take this route for an electric car, you're going to go over and you're going to take a risk, and you take that risk, and either it works or it doesn't. Autonomous driving, for example. Elon Musk did that, and he took a risk and it paid off. Of course, there's casualties every now and again with Teslas. I know they run out of electricity, unknowingly. Even you take your phone, for example, there's like battery shortages that happen, and if you take a look at that like battery health app on your phone, it'll say like the batteries it's slowly decreasing. So that really raises up like the reliability aspect. If you have a car for, I don't know, 10 years, let's say, and it's a BMW, BMWs are known to have issues towards the 4 or 5 year mark of ownership. And if Teslas end up getting that same issue with the battery recharging, and you having to spend extra money to get a new battery, it doesn't pay itself off that like people say it do. So,
well, I don't think that there's necessarily a cost saving. We're also, that's one thing, I hear a lot of feedback from people who are like, well, they're so expensive and stuff. And they are right now. Electric vehicles are definitely more expensive. But it's just like any new technology. Like when your iPhone came out, only the rich had them, right? Because that's how if you want to come up with a new technology, you don't go to the cheap market. You go to the high-end market. So like they started with the Model S. Well, wait, no,
the Roadster.
The Roadster.
But that was like
shit.
yeah.
Okay, and then they went with the Model S, which, I mean, I think when that first came out, that was still like 60, 70 grand.
Yeah.
It was expensive back then, and it's still a very expensive car. But they didn't go with the $30,000 car to start. So it will take time, I think, especially with like Ford getting into it heavy and stuff like that. I think given another 5 to 10 years, and everybody's going to have an electric car, just like everybody has an iPhone or a smartphone now. Whereas you go back 15 years and only the rich had them.
Yeah.
So I do think that, the reliability and stuff like that, like the first iPhone was shit. Like it was junk, right? But it was cool and it was different, and they kept iterating and improving. So the first Roadster was shit. It was junk.
Disgusting. Yeah, it's horrible. I remember I did a PowerPoint project on that car back in middle school.
It was built on a Lotus frame, I think.
Yeah, and Lotus cars are great. They had Toyota engines,
But they had to modify the frame and everything.
It was it's so weird. It's like it's like trying to make a cat out of a dog. You can't really do that.
Yeah.
So,
but they couldn't. I think it was they couldn't afford the manufacturing to make their own frames. So they had to.
And that's the problem with a lot of companies. Whether you look in the automotive industry, whether you look in even like engineering industry, a lot of people who are just starting out, they don't have the funds or they don't have the abilities to take something, make it their own, and make it how they want to. So you have to outsource, and then from there you have to start like really settling, and then you get a bad reputation.
You cut corners.
Exactly. And that's something I've even seen with like photography, for example. I only have 2 lenses because that's how much I can afford, and they're a very different range of lenses, but I try to make it work, and somehow it works. So it's a very hit or miss thing. But just like you said, I think electric cars, especially if you're investing in them now, you're not worried about the reliability. If you're able to afford something like that, you're not going to say, oh shit, in 5 years I'm going to need a new battery. You're thinking, well, Elon, get this fucking software updated so I can enjoy my autonomous driving and hop in the backseat with my wife. So something like that. So a very, very vast topic. I've actually talked about this before, and I've gotten so many different stances. So for you who says that you don't have much knowledge on cars, it's a big remark from me to say, that you really completed the question there. And lastly, what advice would you give, I don't know, a 20-year-old broke college student that's struggling to motivate themselves to go through the everyday rut? What should they do to make it through at least the next 24 hours and beyond?
Well, the next 24 hours, man, then when you're putting like some real pressure on me. I think we talked about the standards. I think that is, I can't. You have to change your standards. You're never going to reach your goals, but you'll fight to the death to not reach your standards. So I think change your standards. That will really help. Always think of I like to say I gave a speech once where I talked about you will never achieve your goals, ever. You suck. You're never going to achieve your goals. And that's because the person you are now is not deserving of them. You must become a different version of yourself if you want to achieve your goals. So I think, always think of for somebody who's really struggling. I've dealt with depressed people before. I've battled depression and lack of motivation at times, certainly. And thinking in terms of like, well, this is just who I am or whatever. That's a very destructive thought process. So changing it to be, I'm becoming a better version of myself. I'm changing changing myself to be a better version is a good place to start.
Gotcha.
And change your standards. The last thing, and I think this is absolutely critical, is you are the average of the 5 people that you most closely associate with. You've heard that before, right?
I have.
Yes, that is absolutely true. And kind of a cheat code that I've figured out is you don't even actually have to hang out with those people. They could be people on podcasts. You know, I am very closely associated with Tim Ferriss. I've never met the guy, right? But I read his books, I listen to his content, because he is the type of person that there are attributes that he has that I want to emulate. So I read his content and things like that. So I associate myself with him a lot. These people don't even have to be alive. They can be dead, and you could be reading their biography, you can be reading their books and things like that. I can't think of FDR. I don't think I've read anything from him. Lincoln, stuff like that. Like, books that I've read. I know you're not a reader, but yeah, I think, just keep in mind that your circle of influence will determine your life, very much so. So if you are, and you have to be honest with yourself. So if you are noticing, I don't know, you're out of shape, right? Well, look at the 5 people that you closely associate with. Like, are they out of shape? Well, there's probably a reason for that. There's probably some correlation that you can you come up with there. Are these people business owners? Are they lazy? Are they playing video games all day? Also, look at the positive. Are they cool? Are they funny? Right? Like, do I want to be a funny person? Okay, well, I want to hang out with some people that are funny. Are they athletic? Are they more athletic than me? I probably want to be more athletic. So just very consciously look at the 5 people that you most closely associate yourself with. Realize they don't need to be alive. They don't need to actually meet them in person. And you will need to make some tough decisions. I mean, there might be people that you are really close with that you look at and you're like, this person is not a good influence on my life. Might be family members, might be boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife. So yeah, you have to be very, very conscious of the 5 people that you most closely associate with. That determines your life.
My mom always told me, be careful who you hang out with.
Yeah.
And right now, I think it's being put into fruition that, it's like, just like you said, the whole average thing. You pick up certain traits, certain qualities from people. I know, like, growing up, I was always influenced by my older cousin, and a lot of the stuff that he might have done, or even just a lot of my friends in general from school, a lot of the stuff that they would have done is something that wasn't normally suited to my personality. So when I would come home and I would, do those actions, or I would cuss in front of my mom or dad, they'd be like, who are you learning this from? So it really puts itself into fruition there, that a lot of these things that you learn, or that you influence or associate yourself with other people, it really rubs off on you. And to be able to have that healthy mindset that you were talking about, to be able to reach those standards of yourself, it's something that's very, very important to stay true to yourself, to realize that and not be able to push away or pull from those qualities.
Yeah, and I think your 2 points you made there was one about being true to yourself. I think that also, you never want to think this is who I am, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you always want to be what was it, malleable? Yeah, big boy word for this job out here. You always want to be flexible. There we go. You always want to be flexible. So and again, be honest with yourself. So if you look at yourself and you're like, I'll use fitness because everybody can kind of understand that one. If you're really struggling to get in shape or whatever, and you don't like that, and you're like, I want to start getting in shape, right? Well, that's really going to push you out of your comfort zone, and that's going to be changing your standard, and you will battle that. You internally will battle that, and it's going to be like, that's not who I am. I'm a fat, lazy asshole, right? So yeah, I don't like being true to yourself. And I know a lot of people would probably disagree with that, but I believe you need to kind of view it as, is the real me? If I'm saying this is the true me, is that actually beneficial to my life? Is that actually a positive thing? Is that actually who I want to be? Right? And if it is, then great. That's awesome. Stay true to yourself and everything. But don't just stay true to yourself to stay true to yourself. Mm-hmm. Like if you feel like, Dylan, you're such a lazy asshole. You're not a good athlete or whatever, or something like that. But you don't want to be that person. Well, then fuck being true to yourself, right? Mm-hmm. But if it's something more to do with morals or whatever, like okay, that's but just always remain flexible and malleable. The other thing I wanted to mention, especially for younger people, is stay the fuck off of social media.
Yeah.
I think that is just so destructive. I see, and it's not just younger people, dude. I see. I mean, this is not self-serving because my business is in social media
exactly.
marketing kind of.
I was gonna make a slick comment, but
yeah. So, I mean, a lot of people, that stuff can bring out very. I don't know of anybody who has become a better version of themselves because of social media. Mm-hmm. It more often than not magnifies your negative traits. My brother, as an example, is one of the coolest fucking people I know, and now he's just so angry and grumpy at the world. And I mean, I love him. I'd do anything for him. I give him the shirt off my back, but he's so grumpy because he's on Facebook all the time, and all he is fed, there was negative traits in his personality, and it magnified them. And he's just so angry and political, and he goes to the world in a very negative light now because of that. And I tell him all the time, I'm like, dude, you're on Facebook more than anybody else I know. Also, you've probably seen in the news recently, they had all the stuff with like Instagram impacting young children or girls or whatever, shit like that. It's magnifying. You take a young girl who's questioning her appearance or whatever, and then she gets on Instagram and all she sees is all these beautiful, perfect pictures. That's going to magnify that and make it worse. So stay the fuck off of social media.
My sister is a perfect example. She just started, she's 14. Mm-hmm. She just got on Instagram a couple months ago, and I still am weirded out by it because I'm I've had Instagram for quite a few years, I want to say, but I never expected, at least right now, for my little sister to get on it. She's going into high school next year, so it's whoa, fucking, I'm getting old.
Yeah.
But no, it's definitely something even I see it. I should be grateful as hell to have the Accord that I drive, but when I see someone doing the same exact thing, maybe even taking a little bit shittier pictures than I do, and they're like, oh yeah, I love this this BMW or this Ferrari that I drive, it really puts a mark to my name, saying Sonny, do better. And it makes you, it doesn't even motivate you at that point. It makes you get into this mindset that's like you said,
I'm
very
a failure or something.
Yeah, like a very condescending personality to yourself. It's damn, I should really be doing better. I'm not enough, this stuff. And especially to someone who's already battling motivational problems, it puts even a bigger blow.
Magnifies your negative traits.
Exactly.
It comes back to being honest with yourself, dude. It absolutely, you always have to be honest with yourself. And it's not just social media, it's also YouTube and hell, it's just getting on the internet, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you can also if you're getting on YouTube and you're watching motivational videos or learning stuff, that can be a positive. You have to be honest with yourself, and constantly checking up on yourself, and just I talked earlier about how I'm always paying attention to the shit that's going up on here, because if I am watching something and I'm oh, that makes me feel down or whatever, oh, I don't want to go there, I got to stay away from that shit. But it could be if I'm watching some Tim Ferriss or whatever, and it's talking about making yourself a better person and optimization in your lifestyle and stuff like that, I leave that and I'm man, I'm pumped, I can make all these changes, I can become even better. Mm-hmm. I watched stuff involving faith and Christianity, and that really motivates me to be a better person. And there's other stuff where I start watching it, and if I'm I don't do it scrolling through Instagram ever, because when I've done it before, it was man, I need to get my life together. I'm such a loser. Look at all these people having these awesome adventures and stuff. Like that was obviously a negative thing. So I needed to be conscious of that and step away from that. I mean, obviously I still have an Instagram, but I don't scroll through it. I don't scroll through Facebook. Oh God. Facebook, Facebook is a shithole.
You're telling me.
And that's where I make all my money, unfortunately. But, it could be, what sucks, dude, is it could be such an awesome, the premise of Facebook, Instagram, all this stuff is really good, man. Being able to connect with people, but don't go on there, unless you have incredible self-control, which most people don't. I am very honest with myself. If I were to get on, Facebook, just like my brother, and just keep scrolling, it would change my personality, and I would become pissed and angry, and probably want to, get violent. So you don't get on that stuff, and so that would be my advice to a younger person, is get the fuck off of social media.
It's probably the best advice I've ever gotten in my lifetime. So like, because it's relatable to me. All the people that I meet at parties or family friends, and even my parents are like, do well in school, do this, do that, and that's it, happy life. And for me, it's like, it's really tough to relate to it, because everyone's taking a different path. My dad went through dentistry school, the way that, like, when I told him I was withdrawing from my Calc 3 class, he went livid. Like, he was like, you haven't proven anything in college, this and that. I'm like, my guy, you haven't even taken Calc 3. You have to take up to Calc 2. And like those little things, they start building up, and it becomes a very like not relatable experience. But literally, like what you told me, something as small as social media, all the way to living in your own headspace, it's something that anybody can relate to, because everyone goes through it. They reflect on themselves, they give reality checks to themselves. So very, very powerful words. Dylan,
I want to finish with one more thing. Go ahead. I think if I were to give one more word of advice to a younger person, is because you mentioned the headspace, which made me think of this. We are all going through a battle that none of us know anything about. Every single person you walk past, they're going through some shit. You don't know what that is. It could be they're fighting depression. It could be relationship issues. It could be financial issues. It could be health issues. Maybe they have a sick parent. Maybe they're sick. Anything like that, right? So, just general advice to any young person is just be fucking kind. Be kind, to everybody else, and also to yourself. Don't, every person you see on social media, they're going through shit. Their life isn't as perfect as you think it is. Be thankful for the life that you have, and just, constantly just be kind to everybody, and realize that we're all going through battles, and, yeah, some people are just assholes, but generally speaking, everybody's pretty cool, and just be kind to everybody. That would be my philosophical end to this.
All right. Thank you, Aristotle. Dylan, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for, hopping on the podcast. I know we didn't, it's not really the realm of automobiles, but I never made the podcast as a realm of automobiles. I made it to actually talk about lifestyle, cars as well, just anything that I can benefit from, because as much as I want to get this out and, who knows, even make money from it, it really, I listen back to these a week, a month, a year later, and I think about, this is something that I need to apply to my life. And I think, once again, this is one of the best experiences of my life, just podcast, talking to you, getting to know you more. So thank you once again for getting on the podcast. Thank you for even renting this room. And I really just have no words to express the gratitude. Absolutely. So for the viewers, thank you so much for tuning in, for the first time watching as well. Hopefully in the near future, we're able to add some more of these video podcasts as well to the audio. And with that, thank you so much for listening, and take care.